I thought that Friday was going to be a big night for Rick Barnes, getting to the Elite Eight, kind of changing his typical postseason run. And then it's Bruce Pearl night. I saw when I go to TBS and I see Bruce Pearl, he's not working the other games. Nope, they've put him there on the Tennessee game. Here we go. And then the TBS guy says, I'm looking at what's happening out there, Coach. And I think you laid the foundation for a lot of this. And then Candace Parker did it. And I'm sitting there thinking, is anybody going to talk about the current coach who had to rebuild it and is doing this? My question is, has he finally exorcised the ghost of Bruce Pearl with the masses, or has he not? Where do you think the majority of fans? Are you still thinking it's finally Rick Barnes, or is it Bruce Pearl still?
I think the majority of people have moved past it, but it's not a huge majority. And I think if Rick Barnes loses today, then you're kind of right back with the large minority who love Bruce Pearl. And I think they're always going to love Bruce Pearl. And you talk about exercising ghosts. Well, there was the ghost right there on TV getting all that credit. And one of the differences, Bruce Pearl's so gregarious. Mm-hmm. He was good on television.
Yeah.
And so, he's sitting there, go Vols, how about them Vols, all that kind of stuff.
Which Auburn fans had to love.
Yeah. Auburn fans ain't going to like it, but the Tennessee people, yes. So I think majority of people moved on, large minority still love it.
I'm with you on the majority of the people. But remember, Rick Barnes is right now, he's on the bench, and Bruce Pearl's in the booth.
Yeah.
And that should resonate with some people. Rick Barnes has won more NCAA tournament games than any Tennessee coach in history. He's got them to the Elite Eight. How many times did Pearl do it? Once. So I would, the majority, and how close is that majority? I don't know. But I think that majority is growing as far as the exercising the ghost of Bruce Pearl.
Well, if you're going by the numbers, it's leaning in Barnes' direction. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Barnes record here at Tennessee. This is just their numbers at Tennessee. Barnes 200 wins, Pearl had 145. SEC regular season titles, Barnes has 2, Pearl had 1. SEC tournament titles, Barnes won one of those things for the first time in 40 years. Pearl did not. NCAA bids, they both went to 6. NCAA wins, well, Barnes has done more with his 6 trips. He's got an extra win and is still playing. Both went to the same number of Sweet 16s and Elite 8s. Weeks in the top 10 of the AP poll, 57 for Rick Barnes, 28 for Bruce Pearl. NBA draft pick 7-1. You're going to get Dalton Connect this year. And then the other thing, Barnes, when it comes to bad headlines, arrests, and NCAA investigations, his number is a 0. By the numbers, I think it's Barnes. But, Will, what's your take on has he exorcised the ghost of Bruce Pearl yet?
I do think for the majority of the fan base, it will be. By every metric, he has surpassed and accomplished more than Bruce Pearl at Tennessee. It's not debatable at this point. And also, he's not gotten in trouble with the NCAA or had any of those issues like that, or his athletics director calling some of us behind the scenes saying, yeah, we know this is happening, but don't report that. Look, we're not getting any of that's happening under Rick Barnes. But sometimes people would rather be right than correct. So I think there are a lot of people who wanted to say second round Rick and things like that will not come off of it, and they're just waiting for the moment that Tennessee does stumble, because every team stumbles, and they'll be right back on top of jumping on Rick Barnes. That's what's going to happen.
Just go back to the SEC tournament, guys. It seems like forever ago. Auburn wins. Tennessee's an early exit, right? You're hearing some of that stuff. Look what happened since then. Mm-hmm. Auburn gets knocked out of the tournament. Tennessee's making the best run they have under Rick Barnes. If you're not going to exercise them now, then when are you? I think you've got to give credit where credit's due.
You said just a few weeks ago that Pearl was still number 1 on your list.
Because he had gone to the Elite Eight, and the program still hadn't done that under Rick Barnes. And I said that was the last box to be checked, and it's checked now.
Oh, okay. Here is the reason that in some ways Rick Barnes can never catch up. Rick Barnes ain't going to show up at a Lady Vols game with a T painted on his chest. He's not going to stand outside the Coliseum in Memphis and say, let's go in there and win it. And I think he said a bad word.
Yeah.
Win the game. So those things are never going to be replicated. And I think that's what some people hold on to. He's fun. Just like Ray Mears with the unicycle.
Right.
It lasts forever.
But the problem is you also get ineligible for an NCAA tournament.
Sure.
But it's fun.
Well, Rick Barnes is not going to have a barbecue.
Right. And at least 30% of the fans may still hold firm to that, right? That's the kind of way I look at it.
Certain players with back injuries where they can't play that happen
Well,
back
that's
then.
the thing. I mean, this Elite Eight team Which has been the better story? Was it the Elite Eight team under Bruce Pearl that had 4 guys arrested with guns and dope in the car on New Year's Day? Or this one?
This one.
I think you'd rather have, if you're an athletic director, I think you'd rather have this one.
And didn't you got help there, right? Like if Georgetown doesn't get knocked out,
but that's part of it.
It is part of
You're
it,
right, that's
but
part
you
of
were
it.
you were a 6 seed playing with house money. It feels like you earned this one
I think
because
a lot
you're
of fans
you're
though
a
would
good
say,
program.
well, Barnes had Loyola Chicago and didn't take advantage. So they did take advantage.
They
But
did.
you're right. You got the Pearl people ignore that. They just look at the Elite Eight run. They don't look at the fact that, well, you drew they beat up Conzo Martin for getting Mercer instead of Duke. And yet when Pearl got Ohio instead of Georgetown, it's like, well, that's normal.
Yeah.